So we heard a day ago, the day before yesterday, we heard on the ABC News, we heard that female MPs had invaded the male toilets. The male toilets they invaded the male toilets at New South Wales Parliament House. The argument being that they had a right to toilets as luxurious and with as much space and as much provision of toilet space and showering, whatever, all mod cons. They wanted exactly what the men had. Apparently the building was built when there were few women in Parliament, so the architecture reflected that. But now these women are saying, these women MPs, one of which is Prue Goward, of course, in the picture they provided had a picture of Prue Goward in the front line. They were all like viragos, they were like suffragettes, they were in the men's toilets, they took over the men's toilets at New South Wales Parliament House. They did, on grounds of gender equality. And don't forget that Prue Goward has never yet, in all these years, ever defended genital integrity as a human right for one male child. She has not. She's the big expert on genital integrity. She was the Sex Discrimination Commissioner. She said nothing then to protect the boy from male genital mutilation. She said nothing when she was Minister for Family and Community Services in New South Wales. And she said nothing since she's become, with the grandiose title of Minister for Prevention of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. I would have thought that male genital mutilation was a sexual assault. That's what I would have thought. So, if men had gone into female toilets like that, they would possibly have been arrested. Security possibly would have been called, wouldn't it? They might have been accused of sexual deviancy. They would have certainly been accused of being, these men have come into female space. It would have been an attack on vaginahood, wouldn't it? On the female womb, it would have been like rape. Men going into a female toilet would have been like rape. It would have been unheard of. It would have been misogynist. It would have been sexist. Yes, I think it's about time we had unisex toilets, and people like Prue Goward can use a funnel. They can share the male toilets and they can all be equal, and Prue can piss through a plastic funnel. She can stand up, she can wear the pants, can't she? Yes, funnels should be provided. They would save money if women stood up to piss, wouldn't it? That would save money. That would be a way of saving money. Equality, wear the pants, yes, use a funnel, that's what I say. Yes, I remember Coogee Pool years ago. Now these women are arguing that they have a right to more toilets in Parliament House. When years ago Coogee Women's Pool wasn't Coogee's Women's Pool, it was a pool that belonged to everybody. But feminists got together and made out that women needed a safe place to swim. Islamic women needed a safe place to unveil. There are all these spurious arguments about why a lovely beach, a shorefront tidal pool in Sydney should suddenly become a women's only affair. And indeed the Anti-Discrimination Act in New South Wales has been bypassed to allow for that women's pool. So if a man wanted to go into that women's pool, he would be arrested and tossed out. And the argument for that women's pool was tradition. Supposedly it was always a tradition that it was a women's pool. That isn't exactly true, because I swam there years ago and men were allowed. It was only women's pool on certain days of the week. Nevertheless, women argued that it was their space, and on grounds of tradition, supposedly because there was an older women's swimming club that went back some decades. If you're going to argue on grounds of tradition, you could say New South Wales Parliament has been a male tradition. It had male toilets. So why are you women trying to muscle in to this male-only space? You've got your secret women's business space at Coogee Women's Pool. Now you want to muscle in. You want to muscle into male-only space, don't you? You do. And yes, there's all these arguments that people make. Prue Goward, the big expert on sex discrimination, as I said, she would never ever defend a male child's right to genital integrity, a human right. She would not. In New South Wales, you can go to jail for up to 21 years for a mere pinprick on a girl's genitalia, but boys aren't protected. Prue Goward did never utter a word to defend a male child's right to genital integrity, a human right, and she's the big expert on fucking, gender equality. And it's more important for her to demonstrate about the right to go into a men's fucking toilet, or the right to have equal toilets. And there again, she saw fit to be part of this coup. There was a coup. They took over the toilet. Women went into this men's toilet and took over it. It was a coup. Now, traditionally, women have always expected men to be chivalrous. These modern day feminists want men to be chivalrous, plus they want equality as well. When I grew up in the country, of course, and I often exchanged notes with my mother. If we went to a toilet somewhere, and some place, there'd be a 44-gallon rusty drum for me to piss in or something, and I'd say, what were the women's toilets like? And she'd say, it was very nice. There were cubicles and blah, blah, blah. We had flush toilets. We had hand basins. So women, because of their gender, they were afforded all these luxuries. We men had to be chivalrous. We had to go without. We had to piss in a pit of lime. I was at one place at South Duras with some unemployed people for the weekend, girls and boys. We all went along, teenagers and everything. We all went along to this camping place. And for them, one girl came into our toilet just for look for interest, and she was appalled. The men's toilet was just pits with lime to stop, the stink of shit and urine. The men's toilets were just pits, but the women's toilets were flush toilets. So that's just another example. And the Anti-Discrimination Board, yes, I rang them back in the early 80s. I was ringing them about another matter, but I said to them, incidentally, why are there women's rest centres in every park? In every park in every town there's a women's rest centre, and they've got more facilities than just a toilet. And I was generous. I said, I know that women might like to breastfeed and they might like to change their babies, but they might need a safe place to change their babies and breastfeed. But I made the point that, because my mother had told me what goes on in those women's rest centres that were in every park, in every town in New South Wales, and men only had a toilet in each park, just with basic toilet facilities. You'd be lucky to have had a bloody hand basin in those toilets. You would have had at least a toilet. But the women's rest centres had all sorts of fucking things. They had showers. My mother said there was an attendant there. They were given free towels. She could even have a cup of tea or coffee. They might have even had a television. They had all sorts. They had comfortable chairs to sit on, cubicles and showers, all sorts of things that women were provided for women. Traditionally, men used to do all the night cart work, didn't they? Women might have done a little bit of shit carrying as nurses, for example, but men had to carry all the bulk of the shit. Men had to dig all the holes for all the shit to go in. They had to work on the night carts. It was men who had to put up with the shit. Men are expected to put up with shit. Women are little delicate creatures who have to have all sorts of provisions and cubicles and things. At my local swimming pool when I was a child, the men's dressing shed was the concrete space, the cold concrete space down in the denizen underneath the concrete grandstand. There were all chlorine pipes everywhere, the hum of machinery. It was very scary just going down there on your own, because there were all these poisonous gas and all these big things for turning, all these giant plumbing equipment like a chemical factory or something, and humming of pipes, and it was just all bare concrete. And it was rough as guts. Men were given rough as guts dressing shed conditions. There was a fashion show at that swimming pool once, and it was held in the women's dressing shed, and I got to see what was in the women's dressing shed. There was cubicle after cubicle. It was all nicely tiled like your own bathroom would be. There were hand basins, mirrors. The women had cubicles, they had toilets, they had all these luxury things, and we men just had concrete shit under the fucking grandstand, and that's what men had to put up with. Especially, I didn't grow up in the city, but in the country, often there'd just be a rusty bucket to piss in. One place I went, the male toilet was just a 44-gallon drum. It was rusty, and it had holes in it, and I was expected to have a piss in there. Never mind shitting. That is what men have to put up with. men had to put up traditionally with all this shit work, and being chivalrous, women had to be given the delicate kid gloves treatment. They had to be given the delicate treatment. They were given all that their feminine sensibilities were all considered, weren't they? Yes, appalling really, the way men are treated. And these women are now, yes, these women are grandstanding. We were in the grandstand, us men, underneath, in the concrete cavern underneath, the cold concrete cavern. And the women had nice things. And these women in Parliament are grandstanding. They're marching into the men's toilets, aren't they, saying they want more. And Prue Goward couldn't even defend a male child's right to his own penis. She couldn't, could she? It's appalling, really. Chivalry, yes, chivalry. You can't have chivalry and equality. I notice a lot of feminists want chivalry and equality. They want their genital integrity, for example, their delicacy, their wholeness, their entirety, their completeness, their wombhood, but they don't give a fuck about boys, they don't. I can remember female teachers when I was a boy. At my infant school, they would march into the boys' toilets. There was one woman, her name was Mrs. Sloane, and when boys were having competitions to see who could piss the highest, she was pointing a finger around, and she drew a line all across the urinal with her finger and said, "You're not allowed to urinate above that height." So here you had some matriarch trying to control male sexuality, and it was quite appalling. It's appalling how men are treated. Chivalry, if you want to be chivalrous, fair enough, but expecting men to be chivalrous is another thing. These women want equality, don't they? But they only want equality on their terms. Prue Goward will never ever defend a male child's right to genital integrity. She won't. And as I said, the women's pool at Coogee, yes, that's considered a woman's right. Sisters are doing it for themselves. Women need a safe place to bathe. And they can bathe in the nude in there, I think. So that's how it goes. There were no swimming pools provided for male-only space. And there was indeed, on the North Shore of Sydney, there was one particular pool where the men used to sunbake nude in the dressing sheds that I did here. And that was a tradition there. They could argue that that was their male-only space, and they could argue for that to be kept in perpetuity, couldn't they? So, you've got these women who are marching into Parliament House toilets, taking it over, and they can't afford new toilets. These women want the men to swap. They want the men to give them the big space, and presumably they want the men to be chivalrous and take something less than satisfactory, something smaller, something crappy. And that's the tradition. Women can march into men's clubs, can't they, and say, "We want to join these gentlemen's clubs now, we want our right," don't they? So, you've got all these women marching into the men's toilets, wanting to take over.